This meeting is being recorded. Okay, so first we will start with Chun. Hello, Chun.
Hello.
Hi, Chun. Are you joining us from China today?
Yes, it's 11 p.m. here.
Oh my goodness.
It's one of the latest events I ever joined.
Wow.
So good to see you all.
Wonderful that you made it. It's wonderful that you're here with us.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so great to see you all.
And I don't know, I mean, those of you who read Chun's bio, you probably know that Chun is also a scientist and a brilliant one as well.
Thank you.
Chun will be participating in the festival in the interdisciplinary panel, where there will be scientists and doctors and people who belong to different disciplines and who also have a knack for poetry, and they will be sharing their poems with us. So Chun, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Wow, this is so exciting. Congratulations to everybody for this beautiful issue. So I will be reading one of my 3 poems called 外婆. 外婆 in Chinese means grandmother from the mother's side. So it's very strange because it basically means a grandmother from outside. Because she's from my mother's side. My mom, she's a very rebellious woman, and she actually made us just call her grandma. You know, but you know, she is my 外婆, so it's 外婆 dash grandma. And so she always, when I grew up, I wear those little cotton shoes she made for me. For thousands of years, Chinese people made cotton sole and you know, from layers of cotton cloth. And this is a ancient image which is about to disappear because everything is made from machine now. But this is 1,000-year-old or 5,000-year-old, I don't know exactly, a few thousand years old you know, image. I always miss her with that image, and she passed away a while ago. So 外婆 grandma.
欢迎光临.
What is that?
Oh, I think Hedy, maybe. Yeah, because Hedy appeared on the big screen.
Okay, let me, I'll restart because I hear Chinese says 欢迎光临, which means welcome. I don't know where that comes from.
Hedy speaks Chinese. Hedy, was that you?
Huh. Well, very mysterious. So,
Sorry, 欢迎光临. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was Hedy, see?
谢谢. Okay, I will restart the poem. 外婆 grandma. When I miss my grandmother, my 外婆, I always see her stitching a cotton cloth sole under a lamp, so far yet so close. And the lamp, first the forever ancient oil lamp in the old country house, then the epoch-making electric lamp in the concrete city building, always somewhat dim, making her hover over the needle, thread, and soul in her hands. In my longing for her, she would lift her head and look at me, warm, long, and tender, then lower her head and always back to her needle and the thread again. In the years after she passed away, I never stopped missing her like this. Grandma is always sewing and stitching under the lamp, even though she couldn't completely imagine the future afar under my feet. With every stitch, she thought of 1,000 10,000 steps, with every pair of souls 1,000, 10,000 miles, fending off thistles and thorns on the road for me with her needle and thread. And the Chinese version. 外婆，想念中看见她时，外婆总是在灯下，纳着鞋底，遥远而又近在眼前。还有那灯，起先是乡下老屋里亘古未变的油灯，后来是城里楼房里划了时代的电灯。不甚明亮，总是让他努力俯身于手中的针线与鞋底。在我的期盼中，他会抬起头，把视线从针线投向这里远方未来的我，温暖而良久的端详。外婆一低头，又总是纳着鞋底。在外婆去世后的年月里，我就一直这么想念着她。外婆总是在灯下纳着鞋底，每一针她都想着千步万步，每一线她都想着千里万里。虽然她无法完全想象那脚步下的未来，她把一辈子的爱与惦念都纳入了鞋底，以她的一针一线为我抵挡着未来路上的荆棘。Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you very much. I just love the emotions in your voice when you read, and I love how heartfelt your poetry is. I remember the very first time I heard you reading a poem, it was during Psych Creative, and I think it was called The Map.
Yes.
You brought us to tears. I mean, that was such a wonderful poem. And I'm so happy that you've actually made it back to China now and you're with your family and, you know, you're back with your loved ones. So
I know. Thank you. It was such a long, difficult journey.
I can
And
imagine. Yes.
I'm among the very few people who are allowed to come back. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank
Wow.
you.
It's wonderful that you're there now. And thank you so much for sharing your poems.
Oh, thank you for making this happen and the beautiful issue and this meeting
you.
and launching meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Gottfried. Gottfried is next.
Yeah. I've got two poems, a shorter one called War and Peace, and a slightly longer one called Grace. War and Peace. This is not just about the war out there, which we all may be thinking of, and a hopeful peace soon that we are praying for. This is also about our very own personal wars. We may feel tempted to fight with those we know and love, as well as the wars inside. All are interlinked, are actually one and the same. War and peace. A pigeon taking off to fly from the top of my neighbor's home carries in her beak across the sky a branch to build her own. For 2-3 beatings of her wings, she becomes the symbol so well known, peace on earth and glory from up high. People say a war begins or ends as if it were an entity all of its own. Yet it is us who go to war, and it is us upon whom peace depends. So let's attend to that before all other things. And grace 1. Near the holy river Thames, once called Isis, my beloved and myself took a seat in what we've come to call our living room, an enclosure in the park formed by trees and bushes with some ancient logs to sit on, relishing some biscuits we had brought and each other. We have often been here, and each time we've been delighted, graced by a robin, eyeing us almost as if watching every move we make. I know, it really is his living room. He has been circling us before, as he usually does, nearby, quite close around us, or higher up on a twig, and singing, jubilating with such tremendous force, yet never ever has he come as close as today, almost accepting tiny crumbs from my outstretched hand, then feasting on them where I've put them on another log no more than a foot away. I have no idea where this came from. Suddenly, yet to my beloved, I hear myself saying, this is just as if Christ appeared to share a meal with us. 2. Not an hour later, even closer to the river on a narrow path that winds its way through a long abandoned apple grove, the trees now have lost most of their leaves, and still there's an abundance of tiny, tasty apples on the ground. All of a sudden, just mere steps ahead of us, absolutely motionless and in utter silence, a heron, tall, he'd come up to my chest, a majestic vision, and in a heartbeat, the apple trees around us are changed as if by magic into a cathedral. We stop as if having been stopped, in awe, enchanted, and none of us moves. A real angel has descended, has graced us with his presence until, like royalty, and in extreme slow motion, the heron gravitates towards the left, then stops again between the trees, and very, very slowly lifts one leg, bends down with his beak to pick between his toes. Only slowly, very slowly, as we dare to breathe again, the spell of this holy audience dissolves. 3. A while later, just at a glance, I, for a split second merely, resting on the old wall next to the river, an intricately fashioned bark, 1.5, maybe 2 hands long. It's full of tiny people, men and women standing close together at the wooden shipboard. A little crowd in ornate clothes, looking out to sea, a holy water, Lake Gennesaret. Who would have left this here? What an amazing piece of art. This, as I said, just in the blink of an eye, all mine. It's only moments later that I can recognize a crumpled piece of paper discarded on the wall. 4. Christ and the angel and the sacred bark, all out there, as well as inside of me, created by all four of us and my beloved. She has shared it all, been part of it, as you have now, with gratitude and blessings. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Gottfried. There's always so much meaning in your poetry, and especially in its narrative form. It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate the beautiful spirituality that you share with us through your poetry. Thanks.
I feel blessed. Thank you.
Thank you. And Anna. Hello, Anna.
Hello.
It's wonderful to meet you. Anna, you're joining us from California today?
Mhm.
Wow. It must be
Yes.
really early now. So it's like 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not used to getting up this early.
Wow. Well, we really appreciate this. Thank you
Oh,
so
it's wonderful
much.
to be here. Thank you so much. I appreciated the deep listening people are doing. I'm going to read a poem. It's written in the voice of my grandmother,
Uh-huh.
who lived in Wyoming about 100 years ago. Edra describes why she married August. It wasn't because Wyoming had so few women, and therefore August had limited options for companionship. It wasn't because I affirmed married women's right to keep their own wages or hold property in their own names. Neither of us had property or much money. He and I worked together at Two Bar Ranch, both of us riding horses, mending fences, rounding up sheep, caring for ailing ones, milking. I married him because I'd met a man who wanted me to be myself, a woman who loved horses, ranching and working outdoors, moving stock, hauling hay, riding. This was the life I knew, and I never wanted to be done with it. August saw how I worked hard, knew I could be a partner, and didn't for an instant believe women had weak bodies. It didn't matter he was 10 years older or short or just as poor as me. My legs reached the ground just like any other man's, he said. I knew that was good ground to stand on. August chose me as I chose him, but I acknowledged Mrs. Morse, the terror of rogues, and Mrs. Post, who had no need to defer to her husband's opinion and rose above definitions others had for her. I recognized Mrs. Jenkins, who didn't give a single ounce of weight to the idea that women who birthed children couldn't carry out laws they voted for. I never met any of these women. Each were before my time, but each helped make it possible for a man to marry a woman, not the idea of who she should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Wow, that's very powerful. That's the voice of a very strong woman. So thank you for sharing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to include this in an issue about the feminine. So you're saying that was maybe around last century. For a woman to think that way, that was great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. And next up we have Ralph. Hi, Ralph. Hello. So you're joining us from North Carolina today.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to read a poem about my mother. She died 20 years ago, and during a lot of that time, I just had a lot of resentment and blame for the things that she'd done poorly, bringing me up. And lately, things have been changing. I'm really the bad is filtering out, and what's left is my love for her and my realization and acknowledgement of the things that she did do for me. So that's what this poem is about. One small section of sky. She taught me the names of the flowers around our half-restored farmhouse: peony, forsythia, dogwood, rhododendron. She planted vegetables for us to eat. More beautiful than Queen Elizabeth and her jewels, she sang snatches of popular songs when the sunlight took her. Her voice would soar and then, abruptly, stop. She read to me from old leather-bound books, Byron and Idylls of the King. For show and tell, I recited Tennyson and was made to skip into 3rd grade. I cried. My mother took my hand. On that evening, under clacking apple branches, she made the heavens match her old blue star map. Deneb, Altair, Procyon, Betelgeuse, our own small section of sky.
Wonderful. It's amazing how, maybe through writing poetry, but it shows how you processed your childhood and everything, and it turned to appreciation. So
Thanks.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're a good son.
Thank you.
And next up, Mara. Hello, Mara.
Try to unmute myself. Yes, hello, Rula Marie. I'm so glad
Hi,
to
Mara.
be here. Good to be here among so many great poets and to start this day off in this way. Grandmother seemed to be a popular place for us to go to evoke memories of the women, strong women in our lives. And my own grandmother from Wales, Sarah Gwen, was a great role model for me in many, many ways. So I'm going to read the poem in the issue that's called My Grandmother Listens to Mahalia Jackson. Mahalia Jackson, of course, the very famous American singer who sang gospel music, and my grandmother's a Welsh woman, adored music, choral music and sung music of all sorts. The epigraph is a quote from Mahalia. I sing God's music because it makes me feel free. In the kitchen, the air damp with towels drying, the light grey outside the window, outside the net curtains, the panes misty. My grandmother wipes her hands on her apron and stops work. She stands to hear Mahalia singing far away, outside the measured hymns of chapel, outside the valley, the circumscribing hills and slag heaps. Mahalia is singing from a place this woman knows only from papers and the radio, but knows it is a hard place, and that the song rises out of it indomitable. The voice laps and croons, swings way, way to heaven, and hails and shouts wild like the wind battering the slate roof and the drain pipes, runnels of soot down the chimney, like the clouds, like the heart. Mahalia sings to her, my grandmother, as David's harpist sings to her, yea, in the valley, thou.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing the power of the spirit of your grandmother. It's lovely. You reminded me, you and Shun, you reminded me of my grandmother, my own grandmother who passed away like today, 2 years ago, at the age of 102. And yeah, she was a very, very strong woman as well. And she may have been older. I mean, I don't know, because a long time ago, they would just write your name at some point, maybe when you're like 5 or 6 years old, when you get all your documents ready and stuff. So it wasn't like the moment they were born. But yeah, I'm very happy, with all the grandma vibes that we're getting today. Thank you, Mara. Thank you for sharing this. It's beautiful. And next up, we have Deborah. Hi, Deborah. Can't see Deborah. Oh, now I see you. Yeah.
Hi. Hi, thank you so much, Rula. I've loved hearing, I love the international spirit that's going on here and love the opportunity to talk about the divine feminine. It makes my heart soar. I mean, SOAR. And it's lovely to be with all of you people to hear today. So I'm going to read a short poem. I think sadly it's sort of always timely, but the title comes from a line in a Joni Mitchell song. The title is "It Takes a Heart Like Mary's These Days," and of course she's talking about the Divine Mary. It takes a heart like Mary's these days, and excuse me, an immaculate heart, not innocent, but swept clean, with room for all. A heart that grieves, gleams, tough, luminous, mother of pearl. A heart with windows, stained, mirrored, whose light suffuses, reflects. O heart of mercy, we are weary, cradle us. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you so much. Yes, indeed, this is what it takes these days. This is what the world needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, Jenny.
Hey.
Hi, Jenny. It's nice to
Hi.
meet you, finally.
Nice to meet you finally. I'm going to go back to a musical theme, only from a very different voice. Fireworks, the beginning. Memory notches cornflower blue. I walk with only one soul. It's not mine. Drive into shadow. I stop, fill the tank with greenhouse gas. Monarch butterfly lands on my face. You will stay silent, I know, like that butterfly. I smear my guts out on the page, seasick. The ending. Just before dawn, a burst of coyote voices end the night, rupturing light in a final display. Spray of song, air piercing long adult voices. Pops of young stretching vocals set me on shore. Gangplank steadied, fraying colors blink into a calm sea.
Thank you,
Thank
Jenny. Thank you. I love the femininity of nature in your poems as well. So you get the sense of the divinity of nature as well. Great feminine. Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. And Jenny, you're joining us from, is it North Carolina as well?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
the foothills.
Okay. Well, nice to have you with us and nice to finally meet you.
Yes, thank you.
And Lucy, unfortunately, can't be with us today. So Jade, guess you're next. Can't see you, Jade. Oh, there you are. Yeah, you need to unmute.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
This is Chocolates slide down the pine and land upon the grass within a slow dance. For May Ziada. Timelines wind and curl beyond the edges of my paper, and I wonder which songs your lips had sung. Had Satie's piano notes swung so often through your room, and after a time, your own fingertips upon the piano. Your voice is not audible, but so close upon me. You might have known a certain set of hills you'd rush up and sweetly reach for the reddest strawberry. And years gone awry, had you bridged the gap between the grass and the upward lift to meet a true kiss? You sat between your pair of pines. I look within my own through the glass. I imagine you'd tilted your face when you heard someone speak, someone you loved speak, and they'd seen you'd heard them. Do you hear me? I won't draw you too near, but I'd wish I'd known your tears then to write pages that would shake them into tears of being loved so well. I recall that touch of appreciation without the defined shape or coolness of hands before I knew you well. Did you draw me in? I don't need to know. I would have come anyway. I kiss each page for you beneath the gleam of your smile as you lean down toward me, my tears landing safely in your hands.
What a beautiful tribute to Mai Ziede, who is, I must say, she hasn't been honored enough. And thank you so much for, I noticed that you write a lot about her. And
Yes.
I wonder, how did you come across Mai Ziede?
It's an interesting story. I had been reading Rumi's poetry for many years, probably about more than 15 years. I'd read Rumi, and I was just thinking, this is the only poet that I've really read from this part of the world. And so I said, why don't I just look for, just put in woman poet in the Middle East and just see, who comes up. I hadn't really read any in English or even looked at them at all. In my learning, in classes, it was always English or American, or sometimes, but anyway, so she came up as one of the very first poets, and I saw that she had a poem in French. I don't speak French, but I translated it, as best as I could, and I felt that she had a unique voice that I could really relate to. So I wanted to read her book, Flowers of a Dream, or Dream Flowers, and I didn't find any copies. So I was like, should I learn Arabic? I didn't really know, because I could only find her poems in Arabic. So basically, I was looking for another quote by her, and somehow I came across her page of Dream Flowers in French, the whole, print copy, but online. And I was so, grateful that I could actually read these sooner, since I could easily, copy and paste into the translator, and they were there. And that's how I found them. She was really a voice that was unique to me. And she had written phrases, in her own poetry that were identical to some that I had written myself before reading hers, and sometimes used in a different contrasting way. So I've been really, interested in, not to mention that she was born in February, exactly 100 years before me. It was very special to me. So that's the story.
Yeah, you probably read her letters. She's famous for her letters to Khalil Gibran.
Yes, I actually have a copy of her letters. I see she wrote in a variety of languages. I had seen some in English of people writing to her, some in Italian, and I had been able to read a few of them that were in, her letters that were in English to her, or I was able to translate a few from Italian. Pretty easy to type in the words. But one thing I want to say is she spoke about 9 languages, And I had recently come across a poem that she wrote in Spanish, and I plan to translate that on my website, where I've written about her often. And that way I had studied Spanish for several years. So I like to translate that poem of hers, from Spanish to English and publish that soon online.
Well, that's
Jade,
wonderful. Thank you, Jade. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Jade,
much.
could you
for sharing this. Yeah.
could you write her name in the chat so that we can all
Oh,
see
yeah,
who she
sure.
is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Sometimes
Rob,
it's
for that.
spelled without the. I'm sorry. Say that again.
Here. Got it? Okay. So, Paul, are you there? And are you ready?
I'm here. I am ready.
Hi, Paul.
How are you?
Paul, you're also joining us from North Carolina.
Yes, I'm part of the North Carolina contingent
Uh-huh.
here. And I'm going to read a poem about Betty, who has posted her current status. Betty's current status. I've got a boombox I bought in 1985. I only play 2 tapes, Beastie Boys and 9 to 5. I found it in the attic when I finally got divorced. It's the one reason I'm still alive. That and a cat named Beetlejuice and a son in California who FaceTimes me twice a week. And a check from the bastard with whom I never speak. Not even a check really, but an e-transfer from his lawyer into my account from that no account. I quit buying razors. I quit buying Nair. Grow where the hell you like, I say to my body hair. Not that I don't care, but that instead I found some beauty there, some value really. My reflection isn't their perfection anymore. I'm the one who can, after some adult pottery classes, turn mud into a plate, into a vase, into a magic mask. The mask is a way to see and be seen more clearly. The mask has one eye a bit cockeyed, a nose a little off center with one nostril flared. Not like the photo I made for Match. That one is posed, lit up, touched up, softened up, made up, and smoothed out. That one got 200 messages in 36 hours. What took you so long, guys? One message I might have answered began, I too have seen tragedy. At our age, who hasn't? I almost read it. I felt a kinship there, but a distant one, like the shadow image of a family photo of a forgotten third cousin. I held the mask between me and the screen. He knows how to play the records, honey, but you know the grooves too well. You know the moves, the mask said. The mask ain't Ellen. The mask knows the truth. Some places it's all taken and no given. Pass me the scalpel and I'll make the incision. I make my own decisions. I cut out the part of my brain that goes on suicide missions. I mean, Beetlejuice has his favorite box, and I've got mine. I turned all the mirrors in the house around so they won't shine. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for sharing your special poetry indeed. Thank you. And next, we are going to ask Anna. Anna Nova. Hello, Anna. Anna, where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Baltimore at the conference, so it is a very interesting language and literature conference here. So originally I work in Buffalo. And I would like to share with you 2 of my poems, if it is possible.
Right. Is it more than 5 minutes? Is it going to take more than? No, I think they're short. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it's okay. Of course.
So thank you. Desire map. I'll craft a desire map. It will include all clippings and shards from Vogue and Blueprint. I want this gentle jewelry with pink stones, white stars, golden A letter, restaurant food, Italian shoes, 'cause I live here and now, my only life in my only body. It has so many sounds, bones chatter, bowels rustle, and something drums into my nape. If I could make a map of myself, I'd cut and spread, admire as something inaccessible, as a pink guts of Marc Jacobs bag, as an evening dress by Dior, rumpled and loosely thrown, smelling of perfume and sweat. Then I'd assemble again. It's commonplace to use myself. To look at myself is commonplace. To know what I have inside is commonplace. To be is commonplace. All that I have fades away so quickly. And the second poem was written right before the beginning of the war, and it is devoted to my Ukrainian friends and colleagues. Sister languages. Sometimes I text my Ukrainian friend who also lives in US. We talk about poetry and creative writing. We talk in Russian because many Ukrainians understand Russian. This is named mutual intelligibility of languages. There's nothing offensive in it, in this fact that I barely understand Ukrainian and can't speak it. If I had more Ukrainian friends, I'd learn it because it's a very beautiful language, maybe even a little more beautiful than Russian. I imagine how I text my friend, when will you send me your poems? By the way, do you know that the war begins on Thursday? Weird, she answered. In 1941, they attacked without warning. Yes, weird, I answer. When I wake up in the morning, it is over. There's neither small Ukraine nor big Russia. All our armies are gone to nuclear heaven, but we both stay in the most democratic and fair America with our little poems in sister languages. Thank you so much for
Wow.
this.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you. I loved your sentence, to be is commonplace. That's wonderful. And your other poem about Russia, Ukraine, your friends, I mean, yeah, I mean, thank you. I appreciate you sharing it at a time like this. I don't know what to say. It's just terrible.
Yeah, very much so. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Anna. And next, Hood.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to just say that the poem that I want to share is the newer version of Copperhead than the one that's published. I revised it for the book, which is coming out next month, called The Lost Book of the Bestiary. Also, Copperhead is a pit viper of North America, poisonous, of course. And there's also another layer to this, which is if you look at Eric Neumann's work, The Great Mother, there are 4 different configuration or archetypes, I should say, of a woman. And one of them is the teeth mother. And the teeth mother is the Kali energy, the destroyer. And this poem comes out of that. And I would like to dedicate it to those in Ukraine who need the teeth mother's energy right now for what they're doing. Copperhead. You coil and wait, knowing that what's warm will come in a heartbeat. Your sweet strike, a sacrifice to your cat-eyed seduction, an extreme unction in your sacrament of chance. What is love if not venom? a toxic reckoning born in fear or desire, a fire illuminating your body numb till your eyes blur and your breathing finally stops. What is release but your body opening itself to the moment, your heat filling with the scent of cucumbers and mint till you're spent, your heart hardened, aching for more, your tattoo bled through.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hood. It was beautiful anyway when you submitted it, and now I can see the revisions. I mean, yeah, it's wonderful. There's really no finishing time for a poem. The poem kind of just, you know, it always asks you to do something to it, right?
They keep merging, and then they, you know, pieces come forward and pieces recede. So it's always kind of a process for me to figure that out. But thank you so much for this, for the opportunity to share, and for this time to share worldwide with everyone. It's wonderful to hear all these wonderful poems from everywhere too.
Thank you. Thank you for chiming in. You're joining us from Virginia, right? I assume?
Yes, from Central Virginia, Rice, Virginia, a huge city of Rice outside of Richmond.
And I love how you mentioned the archetypal energy in the poem. So hopefully maybe you could share some of your poetry with us in Site Creative. Have you ever been to our Site Creative sessions?
No, I would love to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, our next one will be on April 30th. So I'll make sure to send it to everyone in advance. Thank you. Thank you so much. And next we move to Claude. Claude Barbri. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Claude. Good to see you again.
Good to see all of you. So I was going to read a elegy this morning, but with the celebration of grandmothers, and also I'm from North Carolina, so I thought I would read a poem that I wrote about my grandmother, and especially all the images of flowers in the poems from so many of you. My grandmother was a daylily judge from Central South Carolina, and so I always grew up with you know, several acres of daylilies on her farm. So I would get lost in the colors as a child, and have many memories of those. So this is a poem called Pear Relish, which many of you probably write about recipes in families, and how with the loss of a grandparent, you know, even if you have the recipe, it's never quite the same as how they directed it. I use the image of the maestro for my grandmother in terms of making relish, and there are times of harvest and also times of canning, and we all would end up really hoarding what we call the jars of gold, which was the pear relish. So this is a poem about that. At 95, my grandmother would wake when daylight tasseled just beneath the east, enfolded morning glimmers like the gold of corn silk tuft inside their green cocoons, dew husk by dawn, and rise to songs of birds, compelled from ales and shallow drowse to dress and wade into a garden's rumpled rose, where sunbows garnished gloves of rabbit ears and early shows of overspreading chard in twisted, canted grafts of butter beans. Along the okra caps, a white-tailed doe had missed when startled by unwanted sounds, and zagged beyond clematis into woods. With care, she would survey the plotted plots, each patch like cruel duvets suffused with down, and stand hip deep in mint and borage blooms, the hushed remains of ruffled lilies hued with sepals bowed chatoyant in their poised ephemera, to work the weeds away. Her small arthritic hands still stronger than the men she could outlive again with ease. By middle morn, she'd pick a basket load of ready yields, succession herbs and fruit, but always tarried by the kefir pears, as though she'd wandered into a salon of artists famous for their pear tableaus, conspicuous with commentary nods and calyx wrinkles creased along her brow. Her reaching arms like maestros trained batons that tap backstage, anticipating how an oboe A will tune an orchestra before the pause that falls to overtures replete with rondo themes for harvest picks and tempos timed for kitchen alchemy. And home again, the screen door propped to porch, she'd follow recipes for relish droops with canning troops incarnate with reports on juliennes of cinnamon and cloves and tips on wedging unripe pomes to mince in sausage grinders given to enmesh the coarse and verdant crisp of meaty flesh that raw in oblong shapes, both hard and soft, resembled faces that her features made. A toughened guise grown softer by the years, they're always hard inside from life's travails. And soon to add the cider vinegar, a touch of turmeric to gild the grail, would bring to boil the auric bouillon mash in sync au sec with summer's repertoire of rouse cicadas' late crescendo surge that thrum the last ingredients to add sugar, 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 spice. Into the jars and ceiling domes the blend would settle until cooled to ochre pulp. The fetes where spooned ambrosia would tell if all had gone according to the plan. And usually it went with everything, accompanied with grateful dialects of incoherent praise, with mouths too full to say what happiness it was to taste. Don't look back or cows will lick your cheeks, my grandmother would say and send a wink, an idiom equation of Lot's wife who turned to salt and salt the cattle like. Then satisfied, the dishes done, she'd sit with nudging cricks of which she never once complained, though pained enough to plainly see, and rock the easy chair to Lawrence Welk.
Thank you, Claude. That was wonderful. And those of you who have read the previous issue, I believe this was in the previous issue, right? The food
This
issue.
is in previous
Indelible.
one,
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you. It's good to
And
be here.
I hope nobody's hungry because I think I'm starting to feel a little bit peckish after this, all that cinnamon and sugar and stuff. So thank you, Claude. Dr. Norbert Hirschhorn won't be able to make it today. So I guess Alan is next. Hello, Alan.
Alan, you are, there you go.
Hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
All right.
Alan is joining from Dubai.
Had an opportunity to test that. Yeah, and I'm thinking about vacation, so I have a poem about London, having spent the holidays in London. And I would like to read an 8-line coda to the poem afterwards. It's very short. So. Well, it's called Having Spent the Holidays in London. Welcome to the city of London, where everything is closed, as in not open, shut down, buggered, and where we have come to expect that everything will stay closed indefinitely, which includes restaurants, coffee houses, and spas, souvenir stalls and loos, public houses and mews in London at Christmas. There are few exceptions, for everything is closed, or if not, is likely to be closed, except perhaps for the British Museum, where whole countries have been known to lose their marbles, and the libraries open only for those hours when one can't be bothered to attend. They've closed all the airports, the newsstands and the schools. The bookstores will stay open if that's what you've been hoping. And yet there seems to be no limit to what may now be closed or in it. The bus stops and the ATMs, all MIA this Xmas in London. The fountains, bridges, rills and ridges, parks and bells and Saddler's Wells. They're threatening to close the streets till there's no place to put our feet. But they'll never, 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 what never? Well, hardly ever, close our minds, 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 minds. The moaning and the groaning of our minds. Alas, even the couplets are closed, canceled by a period. Enfant at Christmas in London. And the other one is called Apples. It's very short. I have not eaten an apple today, for I have been busy with other things. The apple sits in the cooler, cooling its heels until it's time for me to come and take a bite. Not all fruit is forbidden, that we understand, but all forbidden fruit is cold until you hold it in your hand. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan. I love how you wrote poems about London, and I can relate to that. I've written a few poems about London as well, especially during lockdown, and especially that we used to spend also many of our vacations there most of the time. Since everybody read, I want to just take less than a minute to read a draft of a poem that I wrote about London. It's called Time Will Tell. It's a funny story, actually, because the last time we were in London, it was in December 2019. So that was maybe a month before the pandemic started. And we were staying by the South Bank, and we would see Big Ben on our way to the hotel or from the hotel. So it was always there. And then during that trip, Big Ben it had the scaffolding on it and everything, so we couldn't really see it properly. So I told my husband that I have a funny feeling that we might not be back until the scaffolding was lifted off of Big Ben's face. Yeah, and I remember the feeling. It wasn't nice because I had a feeling that would be a long time, and that was 2 years ago. So I wrote something recently called Time Will Tell. It's a very short poem, and this is the draft because the one that I fixed is actually on my laptop, so I'm reading a copy that I have on my phone. We said we would return when Big Ben got his face back and shed the scaffolding we were yet to mirror with our own cotton camouflages. Among nuts and bolts, we were all screwed into the fulcrum of time. 2 years of marination